computer forensics in Indian subcontinent and has personally trained thousands of law enforcement officers in the area. He has the distinction of starting the computer forensics industry in South Asia and setting up India's first computer forensic lab in the private sector. Skilled in leading team developing products of law enforcement investigation, computer forensics, and computation analytics. He has extensive experience in training thousands of investigators as well as examining large number of digital sources of evidence in both private and government investigations. I now request Sir to start the session.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I hope I'm audible, loud and clear, and visible as well.
Audible. Yes, sir. You're visible as well.
Thank you. I'll just try and share my screen and let me know if there is any kind of a problem. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. Slide.
Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just 1 second. Good. So, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. It's an honor to be here, and I'm delighted to be amongst all your company. Let's keep this session a little informal, though I may not be able to take questions in the middle, but I would definitely like to, make it interactive. So perhaps, to make it interactive, if you could all say respond on chat, and that would, give me a good idea that you are all awake after a heavy lunch. So if that's all right, can you all give me a yes in the chat box, please? Good. Thank you. Thanks very much. Yeah. Yes, I see a lot of yeses. Thank you. Good. All right, excellent. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about investigations related to digital forensics, tools and technologies that are used for it. So this is actually a very exciting field. As we say, new times breed new crimes. Naye zamane ke naye kaarname. And these are the things that we use to handle the new crimes of these new times. I have already been given a nice and generous introduction. So thank you very much for that. This is a small brief overview about me. So what is digital forensics? Digital forensics is defined as the process of preservation, identification, extraction, documentation of computer evidence which can be used in a court of law. And that is the crucial part, the code of law. You see, we all search for evidence. Even if we are looking on our computer, if we feel we are hacked, we will get inside, we will search, we will look for artifacts, we look for viruses, we look for ransomware, we look for all sorts of things. But all that is searching for evidence. However, when it comes to digital forensics, the way that we search for evidence is the crucial bit. We need to search in a manner, we need to preserve in a manner, we need to identify in a manner, we need to extract in a manner, and we need to document in a manner that is acceptable in a court of law. And that is crucial. These are some things that we must understand when it comes to digital forensics. The court applicability is the key. 99% of corporate cases never go to court. However, 100% of corporate cases have to be treated as if they will end up in court. I'll give you an example. There was a particular case we are approached by. We work with, of course, law enforcement, as ma'am mentioned, all over the country. But we also work with a lot of corporates who approach us for their cases. So, a very large American corporate approached us and they said, look, what has happened is that we have, case pending against us where an ex-employee who was let go 8 years ago is suing us in court saying that he was wrongfully terminated. Now, 8 years have passed, and the people who used to work for that organization are no longer with that organization. The data that was existing has probably been archived and kept away. The information that was available at people's fingertips at that point of time is no longer available. That person is saying that, I was wrongfully terminated. You look at this email, and in this email, I'm being praised and I'm saying, being told that, look, I have done such wonderful work, and here is my confidential report which was shared with me, and here I've been given such an excellent rating, and then on that, after that, I was terminated. So what what right do you have to terminate me? I was wrongfully terminated, and for the last 8 years I should be paid a salary which was going into multiple crores, and I should also be compensated for the harassment and the defamation which has happened, because I in society I was shown as a person who was terminated from my organization. So for all that I should be compensated, and what you need to give me is 20 crore rupees. So from that organization's perspective, it suddenly became a thing to discuss, because A, they were worried about bad press, B, they were also worried about the money, which was a substantial amount, and C, they were worried about the kind of precedents it would set for future employees. So the key thing is that why I'm giving you all this information is that any kind of information or evidence or data that we preserve has to be done in a manner which will be acceptable in a court of law later, even though we do not expect it to go to a court of law. Some cases do go to a court of law. They might not go immediately, but they might go many years later. So this is an important aspect that one needs to understand. Right? So what does a digital forensic team do? Basically, the team will analyze, inspect, identify, and preserve the digital evidence that resides on various types of electronic devices. So there are lots and lots and lots of digital, electronic devices all over the place. There are, things like computers, mobiles, servers, networks, everything. In fact, I've been like mobile phones are something that are now so widespread that everybody has them. I've been teaching these classes for many years. I am also an instructor at different police academies like the National Police Academy, the CBI Academy, and things like that. So the CBI Academy in the late 90s, when mobile phones were new, I would go there to take a class, and I would say, I would ask, how many of you have a mobile phone? So in a class of 30, 40 people, one or two would raise their hand and say, yes, sir, I have a mobile phone. So, within just 6 months, it changed. And, when I began to ask, how many of you have a mobile phone? Almost everybody would raise their hand and say, yes, sir, I have a mobile phone. So then I changed my question. I began to ask, how many of you don't have a mobile phone? And, there were one or two people who raised their hand and said, yes, sir, I don't have a mobile phone. So I would ask those people, why don't you have a mobile phone? And they would say, sir, it is a headache. My family, my wife can call me at any point of time. My boss can catch me anywhere I am. I'm never free day or night, and all that, and all very good reasons. But today, I know some of them even now. Today, we find that everybody has a mobile phone. In fact, as times have progressed, I have changed my question. And now the question that I ask is, how many of you have less than 2 mobile phones, or at least less than 2 SIMs? So let me ask you this question, that how many of you have less than 2 mobile phones or SIMs? Please answer in the chat. Okay, thank you. Thanks for the honesty. So there are about 3-4 people who have less than 2, which means that they have 1. Anybody who does not have even 1? Anybody who does not use a mobile phone? Nobody, right? So today we are all digitally connected. In fact, the situation is that we are so digitally connected that if we lose our mobile phone, we feel lost. All our very, very crucial data is on a mobile phone. Things like, our address book. Now nobody remembers numbers. There was a time, I used to know all the telephone numbers of all my family members. I could, Muzabani, give them out. But today I don't remember any numbers because all I've got to do is, scroll through my mobile phone's telephone directory and I get a list of in the phone book and I get a list of everybody's numbers. And I don't need to remember them because I just touch that number and I'm calling that number. So it's the same for all of us. So mobile phones contain your phone book, they contain your messages, they contain your videos, they contain your images, your photographs, they even contain details of where you're going, where you're coming from, your GPS locations, every sort of thing. So there are great source of evidence. But it's not just mobile phones, there is a lot of evidence everywhere. We'll come to that. So what is digital evidence? So from this conversation, you had a pretty good सबका स्क्रीन ब्लर हो रहा है कि सिर्फ मिस्टर अमन गुप्ता का? If you can see my screen clear, then please type CLR in the chat. Please type CLR in the chat. Is the sound quality better now? Check. Okay, how is the sound? Is the sound okay? Check, sound okay? Okay, excellent. Because I've got a very high-end mic and I just brought it closer to my face now. Okay, and for video,
it might be initially there might be some issue, but now it's very much clear. Audio and video both.
audio and video both?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Good to know. Thank you. Right. So coming back, when we are talking about digital evidence is basically any information in binary form that is stored or transmitted, and that could be relied on in court. So it can be found on a computer hard drive, mobile phone. I gave you some good examples, and a lot of other places. I'll give you one very interesting story. You know that the U.S. Army was in Iraq. Are you aware of that? Use the chat box. Excellent. So when the U.S. Army was in Iraq, they were all in undisclosed locations because they did not want people to know where the army camps were to prevent, the ISIS and all attacking them in those locations. So they were all, very secretive about it. However, a lot of these U.S. Army Marines, these soldiers, these different army specialists that were there on the ground, they were all wearing their Fitbit wristbands, which were monitoring their fitness. So they would use them while going for their morning run and exercises and things like that. Check their heart rate, their BP, and all that stuff. So they were wearing this. But there was a feature in these Fitbit bands which connected them to the internet to post their activities and their results, the logging. So the logging was posted on the internet, and if anybody actually monitored the internet activity of Fitbit over the map of Iraq, very interestingly, you could find that there were certain areas where there was concentration of Fitbit devices. So that was a very good and instant giveaway of the location of US Army camps, which was supposedly secret, but theoretically they were secret. Practically, they could be traced because of the digital footprint of their exercise bands, of their fitness bands. So, that is an extremely interesting aspect. That digital evidence exists where we don't even know that it exists. Today, a lot of the data that we think is on our mobile phone is actually on the cloud. Because the phones are synced with Google Cloud Android phones. The our iPhones are synced with iCloud and things like that. In fact, about a couple of years ago, a lot viewed selfie pictures of very famous actors and actresses were found on the internet because somebody hacked their iCloud accounts, and that created a big scandal. And then there was a lot of effort to take them down and a lot of stuff like that. So there is a lot of evidence that exists not only within digital devices but also on the networks that they are connected to. So evidence is everywhere. Now, so evidence is defined as information and data of value to an investigation. So it is stored on, received, or transmitted by an electronic device. And this electronic device can be acquired when the electronic devices are seized and secured for examination. However, you must remember that every electronic device cannot be seized. Does anybody have an example of an electronic device that cannot be seized? Let me share one case. Many years ago, if you recall, and there was this fresh controversy about the government of India saying that sex determination of an unborn child is a crime. So at that time there was it was very fresh and new. There is still a crime today, but at that time there was a lot of publicity about it. It was there was a lot of hype. It was very much in the news. So one of the mobile service providers on one of their portals, they had some kind of a app or some application by some other developer where that person was saying that use this to determine the sex of the child. So it was basically some knowledge, some about certain ways to determine the sex of the unborn child. But because it was contravening the law, the government of India took cognizance of that, and government of India ने कहा कि भाई ऐसा है कि इस पे action लेना है. So when it was decided that action had to be taken, a team was dispatched to the servers of the mobile service provider, and they were told that take this down, seize the server, bring it for evidential analysis and things like that. So again, we work with a lot of agencies, so they wanted us to come along with them. So we said, okay, fine, let's go. So our team, accompanied the law enforcement people to assist them in server seizure. So when we landed up, and we talked to this, we met the liaison officer of the organization, and the organization, he invited us all and said, excellent, thank you for coming. We are happy to, cooperate with you in any way you like. We can. Essentially, the content is not controlled by us because the content has been put by a third party. However, we are happy to, assist you in any way. So, what is it that you need? So, the investigating officer who was leading the team, he said that we are planning to seize the server so that it can be sent to our forensic lab for analysis. So this liaison officer of this mobile service provider, he began to laugh. So he said, "What do you mean here? Why are you laughing?" He began to laugh. He said, "We are planning to seize the server." We said, "Yes, sir, we are." So he said, "Look, where is your truck?" He said, "Truck?" He said, "Yes, come with me." And so we followed this gentleman, and he took us to his server room. And the server was such a huge server. It was the equivalent of half of an auditorium hall. It was consisting of multiple. It was like a mini cloud. What these days we talk about as server farms. In those days, that was a server farm. And he said that look, somewhere on this server the data exists. What are you going to see this? How are you going to see it? Are you going to take all of this away? That's why I asked, where's your truck? Frankly, even one truck is not going to do. You're going to need multiple trucks. You can't just seize that. And how will you find it in that? So that is when we realize that you cannot seize every bit of electronic devices. Sometimes you have to carry out seizure on a more focused way where you're actually seizing the evidence only specific to the event rather than the full container of the evidence. So ultimately, of course, we carried out a small seizure of that logical portion containing the that app and all the associated metadata, and we took that back. But it was a great learning. So today, there's a lot of digital evidence out there. In fact, digital evidence exists in all sorts of crimes. And when we see that digital evidence exists in all sorts of crimes, there are crimes which are normal crimes which also have digital evidence. Let me give you the example of a murder, for example. Normally, when we go to a crime scene where you have a dead body, the kind of evidence that we look at is we look at fingerprints, we look at DNA, we look at blood splatter, we look at we take footprint measurements, and we take cast of footprints, and a lot of things like that. So, what the digital evidence today that is there is something that some of us are now beginning to think a lot about. Things like this person, did he have a mobile phone? Who was the person he spoke to last before this incident? Was his mobile phone found or not? Was his mobile phone used after the incident? What is the location the mobile phone is showing? And is the location same as where the body was found? You see, there are times when the body, the person may have been, seized somewhere else, killed somewhere else, and dropped off somewhere else. And this, the mobile phone will show, because the physical thing is that the person is lying in a location where they have found the body. And it may not be correct to assume that this is where the murder was committed. And that will be visible by the digital evidence. Plus, we can also identify the time when that person landed up in that area based on the time when the phone pinged the tower. And if we have the time, say, period, or time band between when this person was present in the tower, dead or alive, we can also query the tower at the service providers to identify whether other people were also present in the same location at the same time, and who were the other people who were also present at the same location at the same time. Like, for example, if we say that we have estimated that the time of death is between, say, 2 and 4 a.m. in the morning in a particular location, we can, I'll talk about some tools. We can use some specialized tools to identify what are these service providers and which cell towers of those service providers are covering this area, which is the murder site, the walk-up. So, what are these cellular towers that cover that area we have identified? Now, from that service provider, we contact the service provider and we say, please send us a list of every cell phone that was active in that area between 2 and 4 a.m. on that particular day. So you will talk to Reliance, you will talk to Vodafone Idea, you will talk to BSNL, you will talk to Airtel, etc. Today, there are a lot less service providers. There was a time when there were 14 service providers in India. 14. It was a nightmare. Every service provider had their own formats. They had within their own organizations different circles. Even within a circle, they had their own different formats. So the data was not interoperable per se, and we had to do the analytics in a very complex manner to arrive at some kind of solutions. Today, things have become streamlined, but it has taken 15-20 years to do that. So that is there. So coming back, this evidence can be acquired in a lot of cases when the devices are seized, but it can also be acquired in cases when the devices are not seized, where we only acquire the evidence that is relevant to the case, and it may be provided by service provider, it may be provided by the device itself, it may be provided by a repository, but digital evidence exists for just about every crime. Child pornography is another example. Though child pornography, which is a very heinous crime, was very less prevalent in India, we're beginning to see a fairly largish increase in that. We are beginning to see that there are a lot of bad people who are, mishandling children, and a lot of law enforcement is putting in effort to ensure that these kind of crimes are stopped, prevented, and the criminals are brought to book. Digital technology is extensively being used in that. So digital evidence exists in the form of the photographs that they're using to transmit, the devices that they're using to make videos and take pictures and things like that. But in also digital evidence is also being used in different ways. For example, if photographs or videos have been made of children in such situations, what happens is that the background, the rooms in which it has been done, things like that are also analyzed, and there are specialized tools that allow us to match the scene at the back with other videos and pictures that may have been posted in the past, and identify a habitual criminal and identify that this particular location has been extensively used for this kind of crime. So, all these little things add up to a body of evidence and help in prosecution, help in identification of criminals, help in sending them away to jail, and helping keeping our children safe throughout the world. So these are certain important aspects that digital evidence plays, which are not generally known but are extremely crucial in the world of crime. Are you still getting an echo in my voice? Is there an echo in my voice?
Yes, sir, there is a bit, but yes, it's audible, but there is a bit of echo.
Okay, let me move the mic a bit. Is this better? Check. 1, 2, 3. Check.
Yes, sir. Still better.
Still better.
Better.
Let me try one more thing. How is this now?
It's fine now, sir.
Yeah? Is this fine?
Yes, sir, it's fine now.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. Good. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the sources of digital evidence. Digital evidence today, is of course on storage media. We have USB pen drives, we have external hard disks, we have DVDs, we have computers, we have iPads, we have MacBooks, we have phones, we have tablets, but it is also on various cloud sources and things like that. But very interestingly, it is today available on a lot of IoT devices. Things like CCTV cameras. CCTV, if you watch the Mission Impossible movies and things like that, you would have seen that, Tom Cruise is hacking into CCTVs and things like that and getting the data out, and there's a lot of information coming in, stuff like that. So definitely there's a lot of data out there. In fact, I was recently chairing a session from the Indo-UK Chamber, Indo-UK Cyber Forensics Virtual Conference. And over there, one of the speakers, Dr. Sarah, she was talking about how she extracted data from a washing machine in a particular case. Basically, what information that was required was that was the washing machine physically switched on at a between a particular time band, because the suspect was claiming not to be present at home, and the washing machine was evidence of the fact that the person had switched on the washing machine, powered it on, and turned it on to wash clothes at that time. So that proved that the person was present at the scene of the crime. So just an example, So there are sources of digital evidence that we cannot even think of that exist. The amount of data that exists on the cloud, as I mentioned, is amazing. All are WhatsApp. We all use WhatsApp. We all use WhatsApp extensively. And the amount of data that we put, there are videos, there are audios, there are pictures, there is text, there is a lot of communication, the contact lists, everything. There's so much data in WhatsApp. Now, this data that exists is actually, because of WhatsApp tie-up with Google, that data is seamlessly backed up on your Google Drive, and it does not occupy any space. It occupies space, but officially, it does not detract from the 15 MB or 30 MB free that you have with your Gmail account, because every Android phone, as you know, is synced with Gmail, and there is a backup of your WhatsApp on Gmail. So there are times when you may delete the WhatsApp on your phone, but what will happen is that data will come back to you or can be brought back via the cloud. So the cloud, there's a lot of data out there. There are things, there's a lot of stuff on Twitter, there are on Skype, on Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook. Office has also gone online, Office 365. Then there is Facebook, there is LinkedIn, there is Instagram, there is Flickr, you name it. The amount of data that is out there on the cloud is huge. And that is an amazing source of evidence. There is data, there is even data about data, which we call metadata. So digital evidence is not just the standard digital evidence, but digital evidence may be embedded within the digital evidence. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. There was a particular kidnapping case where, somebody emailed a picture of the kidnapped child, and they had used a mobile phone to take that picture. And the mobile phone had embedded the latitude, longitude. It was an iPhone. It embedded the latitude, longitude where the picture was taken inside the picture. And we were able to identify that this picture was taken from this specific location. And on basis of that, we were able to locate the kidnapped child. So that this is called EXIF data, EXIF data. And if you are interested in knowing how you can do it yourself, please write in the chat box, and I will provide you with information about how you can do it if you're interested. And have a little bit of water. So if you want to analyze a picture you have taken using your phone, all you have to do is go to the internet and search for an EXIF tool, EXIF tool. In that EXIF tool, you just upload that picture and it will give you a lot of information, including it will tell you that this is the camera this picture was taken by. This is the aperture, this is the date, this is the time, this is the resolution. And also, if the GPS is on, it will also give you embedded the latitude and longitude of where the picture was taken. So feel free, try it out. So what are the kind of things that you will look for as digital evidence? There are emails. Emails are a great source, and especially when you're working in a corporate environment where you have email as a primary mode of communication, where people use email trails to document activity. Yes, Sanskarji, it is the metadata that will be presented. It is called the EXIF, EXIF tool. EXIF, I will write it in the chat. Okay, so the emails that exist are a goldmine of information. And when I talk about emails, I also mean deleted emails. So, emails which may be on the cloud, like in Gmail, or maybe downloaded, maybe in your Outlook or Outlook Express. So these emails that are there can act as a major source of digital evidence, especially in the corporate environment. So what happens is that when there are, say, disputes between two organizations, they go through a process of what is known as legal hold, where one of the organizations will, via the judiciary, send out a notice to the other organization that they should stop all activity on particular computers because they are looking for information related to XYZ. and this they will put a legal hold so that there is no change in the data, and then a process called e-discovery, which is a subset of digital forensics, will be initiated. Now, within the e-discovery process, what happens is that based on certain keywords, there will be data sets that will be extracted from the complete hard drive. And those data sets are what will be analyzed for occurrences of those keywords. And then they will be examined in a neutral manner to see their pertinence or relevance to the case. So they are, again, emails are a great gold mine. Normally, emails are something that are extensively mined for information when it comes to the corporate environment. Then there are, of course, digital photographs. A lot of these cases, come to light or come to uh, to their correct solution based on evidence found in digital photographs. There are times when digital photographs are also used for misleading, because digital photographs can be morphed, they can be edited. Today we talk about deep fakes, we talk about so many things that are created just for creating or scenario of misinformation. Similarly, a lot of images are uploaded to things like Facebook, Insta, and other places where they will have the body of somebody and the head of somebody, and they will upload it, and they will try and defame people, or a lot of activities like that. So digital photographs are playing a fairly important role. And again, there's technology available that helps you identify how authentic an image is or a photograph is. What is it that makes it authentic? What is it that makes it non-authentic? Whether it has been tampered or not, and so many things like that. So all these are good examples of digital technology in use when it comes to digital investigations. Things like ATM transaction logs. Today, a lot of frauds happen by using ATMs. People, withdraw money. Sometimes there is a double withdrawal. Sometimes ATMs are hacked. In fact, the ATMs, are run on old operating systems, which are extremely vulnerable because they're not security patched, and anybody who sort of puts in an intercept at the, in the network, in between, there is a device called a network tap, can intercept all the traffic between the bank and the ATM. And once you control the traffic, you control the command, and once you control the command, you can make it do what you want. Similarly, there are word processing documents. Again, documents have metadata, so there is document data about data which is contained inside the file header, and it will give you the name of the author, it will give you the name of the first time it was created, it will also tell you, look, this is how many words, this is the last time it was saved, and things like that. So dates are very, very important. When we look at digital evidence, when we look at digital files, there are at least 3 dates, maybe 4 dates associated with a particular file. We call them the MAC times or MAC dates. So those are the modified, accessed, and created dates and times. So the date the file was modified, the date the file was accessed, the date the file was created. These are all pieces of information that are important from an evidential perspective, extremely useful. Then there are instant message histories. Instant message histories are the chats, and I mean, in the good old days there was the Yahoo Messenger, the AIM and things like that, America Online, which were used for doing online chats. And what would happen is that you could instantly communicate with people online. Today, you have Google Chat, which you can use, or it's called Google something else, I forget now. Google keeps changing names. And then there are things like files saved from accounting programs. You have data backup files that are saved from accounting programs. There are spreadsheets. The amount of data that is contained in spreadsheets today is huge, and spreadsheets that are on the cloud, they contain tremendous amounts of data. So it's a combination. Similarly, there are internet browser histories. Where did somebody go? Which websites did somebody visit? What were they looking at? There was a very interesting case, in Hyderabad, where there was this young girl who went missing. So when this woman or this girl went missing, people were quite worried about her, and a police case was lodged. When this police case was lodged, the police got into action and they began to investigate. So they questioned, her friends. So one of her friends said that, look, this girl, she had a boyfriend and she had had a fight with her boyfriend. So, in all probability, the boyfriend would know. The boyfriend was a very vicious chap. He was very bad guy, and he was like a Gunda element, and maybe he did something. So the police, they caught hold of the boyfriend and they interrogated him and all. And the boyfriend said, look, I agree, she was my girlfriend, and definitely I was angry with her. I had actually proposed to her, but she had refused me. She said, no, no, I am not interested in you. So obviously I would be angry with her. But I did not do anything, I did not kill her. So please don't blame me for that. What actually happened, I have told you. So, this was, the police was not clear. They said, look, he's very honestly admitting that he had this fight and everything with her, and he's given us a very valid reason for it. And other than the hearsay evidence that we have from her friends who are saying that, he had a big fight, other than that, we have no proof. So that is when, digital evidence came into play. What happened was that this person had a laptop, his laptop was seized, the voice, and the internet browser history present and deleted was examined. So, so his search history showed things like, which is the deepest lake in Hyderabad. And then, search for steel box manufacturers in so and so area of Hyderabad, and things like that, so when all this was searched and then this was analyzed and the deepest lake was identified, so divers were sent and they dived in, and they actually discovered a trunk, and the trunk contained the body of that girl. So internet browser history can actually give a lot of information in such a case. Similarly, there are databases. Data is stored on databases today, and data in databases can be correlated with other information to arrive at the story of what actually happened. So as I keep mentioning, that data tells a story, and the story helps solve crimes. So I have this saying, that criminals always lie to protect themselves, but their digital devices always tell the truth. So that gives us that insight, that a digital device allows us to identify what is going on, to identify the thought process of the criminal. It gives us an insight into what that, when I say criminal, I also mean fraudsters. I also mean, people who are in the cyber world who are doing wrong stuff. But they're also criminals. So, I just use a broad term. So another area that people use extensively is the contents of computer memory. Now, let's talk a little bit about computer memory. Just like humans have memory, we have things in our mind, but unless we write it down or we probably, remember it consciously, they tend to sort of vanish. They may be somewhere, but they vanish. They don't remain in memory for long. There's short-term memory and there's long-term memory. So computer memory, that is the RAM, is actually short-term memory. As long as the computer is on, the information is available. The moment the computer is powered off or rebooted, the contents of computer memory is gone. And that could be a very crucial piece of evidence. Computer memory can contain things like the last applications used. The current passwords of those applications are stored in the RAM, in the memory. So things like that. If the hard drive is encrypted, the encryption password of that hard drive is also stored in the RAM. So today, when we are going about to carry out a computer forensic investigation, RAM seizure is an important part of that investigation, where the team will go in and create an image also of the RAM to be able to get a copy of the memory contents at that given point of time. So that is, another useful piece of information from that perspective. Good. So, any questions so far when it comes to digital evidence? Yes, no, or question? Just put it in the chat box.
Participants are free to ask any questions so far.
Right. So we have a question: can we mask our digital identity? Well, depends on who you want to mask it from. From most of the public, yes, to some extent it can be masked. People create fake IDs, people create fake profiles, people create fake backup documents. They will put up things that are put up there on their websites and things like that, and that is used for the purpose of masking their identity. However, when it comes to law enforcement, you will find that so many people, people who committed crimes like on the dark net, people who have masked their identity, they have been selling drugs. You heard of Silk Route. People who have, done ransomware, who have committed crimes related to ransomware and all. Their identities have been unmasked by police forces, law enforcement, intelligence agencies, and things. It takes time, it takes effort, but if the government is serious about finding you, they will. So again, this is something that masking your identity is a relative thing. It depends on the skill set and the resource availability of the person you're masking it from. Okay. I hope that answers your question. Next is washing machine example. How was the data extracted? That's a very good question, Sanskar. Basically, what Sarah said was that they have developed what they call a data extraction framework, and that data extraction framework is extensively, pertaining to certain extraction points depending on the kind of a device that is out there. So if you send me a mail at the end of this, I will get you more information. I'll share my details at the end of the presentation. Okay, and what are the tools and technologies that are used in digital forensics? All right, so tools and technologies I will be discussing as we go further along in the talk. I have a little bit of time still, so at the you can utilize different kinds of tools and technologies for getting the results of any kind of digital investigation. Is there a possibility in which digital forensic fails in any case? Or are we unable to extract data with digital forensic? Yes and no. Again, it depends on the extent of tools, resources, and determination that you have when it comes to digital forensics, because it varies. For example, data has been recovered from phones that have been thrown in water, thrown in acid, which have spent even 6 months underwater. So, for example, there were a number of phones that were submerged in water in some floods that were there, about a year or two back in some parts of the country. So data had to be extracted from those phones. The phone that come into the lab was also submerged in water, so the evidence was actually affected. So that those had to be first revived and then retrieved. So in some cases it is possible, in some it is not. There is also an element of luck involved. If the device is fully destroyed, suppose I take a hard drive and I take a hammer and I bang the platters and then pick up the stuff and burn it, the data is gone. It cannot be retrieved with digital forensic or without. There is always that, but digital forensic doesn't stop there. Digital forensic will say, all right, that particular source of evidence is gone. Let me look at the cloud. You see, so it is a matter of the ingenuity of the investigator. Like we say that when you're a digital forensic investigator, you're a digital 007. And as you know, in all the James Bond movies, James Bond never gives up. He's always got new ideas, new things, new technology, which he constantly keeps using. So this is that digital 007 concept, right? Okay. So the next question is it possible to extract data from corrupt memory? In a number of cases, yes. Sometimes no, it depends, right? All right, so now let me continue. So just a quick review of the objectives: to recover, analyze, preserve computer-related materials in a manner that helps the investigation agency to present them as evidence in a court of law. All right, again, I began with this. This is an important aspect. Keep it in mind. Keep it in mind. However, there is another aspect, that is to postulate the motive behind the crime and identity of the culprits. What is the motive? Why did this person commit the crime? If we can identify a person's motive or reason, we can also identify the possible culprit. You see, in a lot of cases, the victim may know the culprit. If they identify the motive, then they can identify the culprit. So if the digital evidence gives you an idea of the motive also, that itself is very useful from an investigations perspective. So it can act as an assistive technology also, other than just, from a prosecution point of view. Okay. The other thing is to design procedures at a crime scene to ensure that digital evidence is not corrupted. I'll give you a very interesting example. I share these stories to help you explain it better. I hope that is acceptable. Are these stories okay? If they're okay, please type okay.
Yes, sir, they're fine. Sir.
Okay, excellent. Good. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, what happens is that there was this particular police case where they were finding that people, people were being found who were impersonating police officers. They were carrying around identity cards showing that I'm a police constable and things like that. I'm a police constable. I'm from the police department and things like that. So these people were basically, not really misusing them much. They were actually only using them for traveling on the state bus service, saying that I'm staff. See, this is my ID card, and they would show themselves a picture in uniform and show themselves as a police constable. So they would travel free in the buses and things like that. Young chaps. But the police decided to take this seriously. They said, look, somebody is impersonating police officers, and this is a crime and it must be pursued. So a lot of effort went in, and ultimately it was tracked down that these identity cards were being made by one desktop publishing chap in one small town and some small shop. So the team, they landed up there and they found that this young guy, who had recently set up a desktop setup, he had a printer, he had a laminating machine, he had a video, his web camera and a DTP setup. And all he was doing was he would ask one chap, he would come, okay, you want one? Okay, take this thing here, give me 15 rupees. That's it. Here's your card. So he was just using it for his livelihood. He was just doing this, So what they did was they seized his computer, they seized his printer, they seized his camera, they seized everything. And they took him also to the Thana and this thing. So on a Saturday evening, they grabbed everything, they put him there and they said that let him thoda jail ki hawa khao. In the lockup in the Thana, they left that chap there. And they said, okay, Monday morning, we will interrogate you. For 2 days, you sit in the Thana. So that guy was, worried, sweating. His family was worried, sweating, whatever, a lot of stuff. They put pressure on the chap. So Monday morning, he was asked, he was taken out of the Thana, he was brought in front of the SHO, and the SHO said, "Bhai, bata, kya karta tha?" Poor chap, he was already so afraid. He was a young boy, he said, "Sir, it was nothing. All I did was I was just taking their photo and putting it on a ready-made template. I would print it out, laminate it, and give it to them." That dikha mane. Show it to me. I want to see how you do this. Said, okay, sir, aap baitho. So that guy, he asked him to sit in front of the computer with the webcam. He took his picture. After taking his picture, he took the picture and put it on the identity card. And after taking the identity card, he took a printout and he laminated it. And he said, "Sir, I'm ID card." So they said, "Yes, yes, 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 yes." good job and all that. And they said, all right, they made up a report and everything. So that Monday, they wrote up the case and they said, okay, you can go. This will go to court. And if you are required to come, you come. So as justice process proceeds in India, it took a long time, and 6 years later, this case came to court. Now this young boy, in the meantime, he knew that he had this case, so he did a lot of studying. He understood the technology. He understood the rules. He learned the law, and he became fairly, aware about what was going on. And then what happened was that when he was taken in front of the court, and they said, "This is the evidence against you. See, your system contained this and produced this, etc., etc., etc." So this chap said, "Sir, can I see the evidence?" So they said, "Are you denying it?" "Sir, I'm saying this is my system. I'm saying that this is my computer. I'm saying this is all mine. However, this evidence that they have produced from my computer, this I'm debating. I'm saying that this is not my evidence." So they said, "All right, here is the printout." "No, no, sir. I want to see it on the original computer." Said, "All right." So the judge gave the directions that the original computer should be produced in front of the accused. Accused sees the original computer. He says, "Sir, please look at this. This seizure memo that they have provided shows that all the computer and everything was seized on the 10th of January, so and so year. Now, this computer that has been shown to me, please look at the dates of the files. They are showing 12th of January, so and so year, which means that this computer was actually accessed, and these files which they are printing and showing, these are all actually being produced after the event, after the seizure. The computer was no longer in my custody. This was in the custody of the police. So, in fact, they are planting evidence, arrest me after the event. And as this is pretty obvious, sir, from what is there. So this evidence is absolutely not admissible in court. Perforce, when the judge saw that, perforce the judge, had to agree to this, and the chap was let free. So the procedures have to be designed when it comes to computer forensics to ensure that the digital evidence obtained is not corrupted in any way. You have to ensure that the data or the evidence that you cover or seize is not damaged or destroyed in any way. It is amazing, so many cases where, in the early days, I remember when police teams used to go to seize evidence, they would pick up the monitor and they would bring it and say, "Oh, sir, here is the computer." And actually the CPU was under the table, so they leave it behind because, "Sir, isi mein dikh raha tha sab kuch." You see, so the thing is that unless there is sufficient knowledge, unless there is sufficient procedures, standard operating procedures defined, there is a great chance of losing the digital evidence. Next is the data acquisition and duplication. Data that is seized, one should never work on the original, because I gave you that example of that making the fake identity card. When the SHO got him to make the fake identity card again to demonstrate the procedure, the data was corrupted. Basically, the dates were changed. So data acquisition and duplication has to be done before you work on the evidence, so that you never work on the original. That's one of the cardinal rules of computer forensics. So when we are recovering deleted files, we are recovering deleted partitions from digital media, we need to do that to be able to extract evidence and validate them. We also have to obtain and identify the evidence quickly and identify and estimate the potential impact of the malicious activity on the victim. There are certain situations where we have what is called life at risk situations. A kidnapped child, terror threat, impending bomb blast, or these kind of things are very, life at risk kind of situations where speed is critical. There are different ways of going about it. There are a lot of situations where you have time, there are a lot of situations where you don't have time, and things have to be done very quickly. There was this one case where, before the 15th of August, on say 13th of August, we were called by the Joint Commissioner of the Special Cell, saying that, they called me and they said, Sameer ji, aapki help chahiye. I said, yes sir, let me know, how can I help? They said, look, we have seized this laptop from suspected terrorist, and we expect some activity planned on the 15th of August. So we need you to help us identify what is going to happen. Here is the laptop, get started. And remember, 15th August is only 2 days away, so you need to be very fast. This is an example of that, identify the evidence quickly, because anything can happen. We were given the laptop and we went to work and we ran through it. A lot of stuff was there, indicative of, yes, that there was some terrorist activity on that. And then we came across a zip file where it said, fake identity card of so-and-so, fake identity card of so-and-so, fake identity card of so-and-so. So the zip file, you can actually see the file names within the zip, but the actual file was encrypted or password protected. So we could not see the content of the files. Now, when password protection cracking is a very difficult task, and it takes time. So now what happened was that we contacted back the Joint Commissioner and we said, sir, we found some files. They look very interesting, but they are protected by password. What do we do? Said, you guys are the forensic experts. You have to do something. They said, sir, because of the shortage of time, of course we will do something, but because of the shortage of time, what we recommend is that you should interrogate the suspect from whom you got the laptop and get the information. So he asked us, do you mean we should third degree the guy? I said, yes, if required, you can third degree the guy and get the information. So he began to laugh. He said, this person who was killed in an encounter, you go ahead and third degree the laptop and get the information. So ultimately, we did carry out a very interesting process by which we actually recovered the data and found what was there and helped prevent the incident that was expected to happen. But the time pressure is tremendous and the risks are very high. So these kind of situations are things that are part and parcel of the computer forensics or digital forensics domain. Similarly, you need to have the objective of producing a computer forensic report which offers a complete insight in the investigation process. And of course, we need to preserve the evidence by following a chain of custody. So quick overview. Basically, we have identification as to identify the purpose of the investigation, and then we also need to identify the resources required, because as we say, it is better to sweat in preparation than to bleed in battle. So in computer forensics domain, you need to be well prepared. You need to have empty hard disk to carry. You need to have the tools that you need to take with you when you're going to the field. You need to have digital evidence seizure kits. You need to be able to, make a document of whatever you're going to do. You need to be able to preserve it. You need to be able to carry the data back in a manner where it doesn't get damaged in transit. You need to document everything. You need to document the crime scene. You need to document the area around it. You need to document the people present. You need to document the passwords that are there. So many things. You need to, then after you've got everything, then you need to identify what techniques you're going to use. You need to analyze the data, process it, and look at the data within the data, the metadata, interpret the data, analyze it, find out relationships, find out sequence of events, find out motives, and arrive at the results, the observations. Similarly, at the end, there you have to put it all together and make a nice presentation saying, make it simple to understand so that the judge also can understand, because they're not technical people. So you may have used technology to crack a password, but you will have to say that, look, I used this particular technology, I recovered the password, and this password that I recovered was this, and when I put it in this file, here is the result. You see? So you have to make it simple. So there are different types of crime out there. How many of you have heard of Jamta? Please write in the chat box. Write me. Two, three. Just three people. Okay. So let me tell you. Jamta is an area in. This is actually also a series on Netflix. It's actually a movie on Netflix called Jamta Sabka Number Aayega. And this is the online frauds that you see today, where people will call up and say, you have won a Tata Safari on the basis of your shopping on, say, Snapdeal or something, or you did this on Amazon and you're going to get a refund, or we are going to, you have won a prize and you just have to give us an OTP, or you are buying something on OLX and you want to transfer the money to you, give us your Paytm number, and you will get an OTP, please confirm that, and things like that. So this is typically a Jamtara kind of fraud. Jamtara is an area in, on the border of Bihar, Jharkhand, and Bengal, where that all those village areas, the district people are involved in this kind of crime. They even have training centers for this crime. They are trained in social engineering, how to make these calls, how to convince people, and things like that. So there are a lot of things like that. So everybody gets a call like that one day or the other. They're saying, sir, after ye hua hai, yeah, your card is going to stop functioning, your SBI card is going to stop functioning, or things like that. So that is one very, fairly large kind of a fraud related crime that is prevalent in India today to a very large extent. Some examples are given here. There is email bombing, where large volumes of email are sent to a single address to jam up that mailbox, and then so that nobody else can send any mail. Spamming is, of course, sending unsolicited messages. A lot of spam we all get every day. In fact, we get so many that we are sort of used to it. We either ignore it or simply press the delete button and send it out. Spear phishing. Spear phishing is, targeted emails. They're targeting a specific organization or an individual seeking unauthorized access to sensitive information. Another example I'll give you. How many of you have heard of Benazir Bhutto? Excellent. So Benazir Bhutto was the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and she was assassinated. Now, when she was assassinated, that was big time, a very big news for the whole world, but a very important piece of news for India. And there was a lot of, greed or need for information, both among the government and the private citizens. Everybody in India is very concerned about what is happening in Pakistan. And when a thing like this happens, that desire for more information related to this activity is extremely high. So some people working in the Ministry of External Affairs, people working in the defense, they were sent targeted emails where, they were told that the subject was the real story of how Benazir Bhutto was killed. And there was a document attached to that. Whoever opened that document was infected by a particular virus which began to exfiltrate or steal data and send it out. So this is spear phishing, an example of sending targeted or directed emails or messages to specific departments or individuals seeking unauthorized access to sensitive information. So then there are job frauds. Job frauds are things related to, you are looking for some part-time employment, for example. There are a lot of advertisements for part-time employment. There are situations where people will say, okay, we need somebody who will have to act like a mystery buyer. You will have to buy things from, say, Amazon, Snapdeal, and things like that, and then you will be compensated money for it, etc., etc. So they will say you will have to send that things that you buy, of course, to us back, but you will be paid for all that and things like that. You will be given money to pay and all that. So what will happen is that the fraudulent money will flow to these people, and then they will do buying with that fraudulent money. The goods will be sent to somebody else, or they will be collected from their place, and they will be asked to transfer the balance of the fraudulent money back, etc., etc., and things like that, where that they act as money mules, they act as the front end, and they get arrested, whereas uh, the criminals get away scot free. So this is just one example. There's digital stalking. People track identities online. They figure out what you do, where you live, who are your friends. So if the more information you put online, the more information sources the digital stalker has. Then there's software piracy. Unauthorized use and distribution of software, digital pornography, there is digital extortion, there is domain name hijacking, there is digital bullying. All this is there. In fact, in the early days when the internet came to India, even there were domains like statebankindia.com, which were owned by some foreign parties. Instead of State Bank of India, it was State Bank India. It was owned by some Chinese people, and people would log on to State Bank India, and they would get their data stolen and everything. That would then go on to the State Bank of India website, and then money would be withdrawn. So people created a lot of fake domains. In fact, there was State Bank of Mysore, State Bank Mysore, and things like that. Some people had very interestingly created, domains in anticipation. They had State Bank of Delhi, State Bank of Chandigarh, and things like that, which are actually, the banks did not exist, but people created those banks with some particular objective. We don't know. So very interesting stuff like that. Then digital bullying. This is a form of offenses of using the internet to carry out offensive activity on the personnel out there. Yeah. So there are different classifications of digital forensics. There's disk forensics, there is network forensics, email forensics, mobile forensics, malware forensics, cloud forensics, GPS forensics, you name it. So there is a huge different variety of what's going on. In fact, I wrote a book on network forensics, and learning network forensics is a basic book. It's also in a course curriculum of number of institutes around the country as well. And this is something that gives the basic fundamentals of how to understand one aspect of forensics, which is network forensics. So let's now talk about forensic tools. Digital forensic tools, there are a lot of them out there. There are tools which are required when you go out to the crime scene to seize the data. In fact, I mentioned, this is something which is extremely critical. This is something that is required when you're doing your seizure of the digital evidence. Then there is a cell site analyzer tool which analyzes cell sites, CDR, IDR, TDR, IPDR tools, write blockers, disk imaging hardware, forensic workstations, mobile forensic tools, disk forensics, social media, GPS, password, DVR extraction, image and video forensic tools, image authentication tools, face forensic software, and things like that. So let's just have a quick overview of this. Okay. So this will also answer your question. One of you had asked about tools. So this is the first tool. This is called DESK, Digital Evidence Seizure Kit. Portable kit. It can be carried to the incident location. It is used in corporates. It's used in police forces. It's used in different agencies and things like that. And it helps in documenting digital seizures as per Indian laws and producing appropriate seizure memos. So basically, it's got what I call a built-in tablet. And what happens is that you take a picture of your evidence. Like, for example, if you take a picture of your hard drive, it will automatically OCR the serial number, the make, the model into the seizure memo. And then when you're doing that, evidence seizure form will get filled up with all the necessary details. You can also fill it up with the latitude, longitude of the location if you want it. The seizure happened in this location. And also you can then manually put in the address and the name of the person and things like that. Ultimately, you have your proper documentation from a court of law perspective. Similarly, then it needs to be, packed. It needs to be first authenticated. So it will calculate the hash values. Now, the key thing about hash values is hash value is like a digital fingerprint. Now, what is a digital fingerprint? It is like a normal human fingerprint. No two people are supposed to have the same fingerprint. Similarly, no two documents or no two hard disks or no two devices will have the exact same hash value unless they have the exact same content. So if I have a file and the file contains, this text, a quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, and another file contains the same content, a quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. I do a hash value calculation, and those two files may be exactly same. If they're text files, they will have the same hash value. But if I put a full stop, just one tiny full stop at the end of the sentence, a quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, full stop, and when I do a hash value of both these files, what happens? They will have wildly differing hash values. They will have different hash values, which will very clearly indicate that they are two different files. So a hash value is like a fingerprint. If the file is the same, the fingerprint is the same. If the file is not a copy of that file, the fingerprint will be different. So if I take a file, that same one, the quick brown fox, and I do a control C and I make a copy of it, control V, it creates another, say, copy of quick brown fox, and I rename it. I call it windows.dll. Now, to the two windows, it will look like a different file. But when we are doing the analysis, both the files system.dll and quickbrownfox.txt will have the same hash value, and that is an indicator that they are exactly the same file, though they have different names. And then because somebody has made the effort of renaming the file, then it's an important file. Just an example, right? So the digital evidence seizure kit allows you to safely transport the evidence, calculate the hash values, pack it, prevent it from being accessible remotely. Like any mobile phone today can be, if properly configured, the data on the mobile phone can be deleted remotely. Say for my iPhone or for my Android phone, I can remotely access my phone and wipe the data. So if anybody seizes my phone, I am remotely deleting it. Then they can keep struggling to try and get my data out. See? So the key thing is that you have what are called Faraday bags. You put the phone inside the Faraday bag. It is no longer accessible over the internet, and you can then bring it into your laboratory or your crime examination lab or van or whatever, and then do whatever you need to do. So you get automatically you get a seizure memo created like this, where it makes life a lot easier, and you don't have to do much, because all these equipment are actually designed for police forces where there is not where the expectation is that they will not be technically very qualified. The front responder, the first responder, is not a technical expert. The moment when it goes from the first responder to the laboratory is where the technical expertise comes in. So from the seizure part, procedure is extremely important, and when the analysis part comes in, then the technical capability becomes very important. Right? Now here what we are seeing is a cell site analyzer. This is a device, a rugged device that can be mounted inside a vehicle, or it can be carried to the scene of the crime. And the key aspect is that it will automatically poll every cell tower in the area. So suppose, if you recall, I talked about that murder site, the murder scene. We will take this to the murder scene, and we will power it on, and we will ask it to scan these surrounding areas. It will scan the surrounding areas, and on that scan it will say there are two Vodafone towers pointed in this direction, so there might be calls in towers. There is one Reliance Jio tower in this particular location, and there could be calls related to Jio in this area. Similarly, there is one Airtel tower there are 3 Airtel towers that are covering this area, which, whose signal is being received here. They also would have data relevant to the crime, and so on and so forth. It will give you a list of some 20, 30 towers. Now, what is the next step? Next step is that this data is taken by the police forces, and the service providers are approached that please, here is the list. Take this list and send us all the calls that happened on this particular date between this time and this time, or all the internet activity that happened on that date between this time and this time, so that we know who were the people who were present in the location at the time of the crime, at the scene of the crime. That is extremely useful. So that is what the cell site analyzer does, right? It helps you, it gives you all this information related to that. Then, of course, there is the call data analysis and management system. It is CDAMS, the very powerful tool extensively used by the CBI and a lot of other organizations. It is something, which I keep saying is, in India, we have 1.3 billion people. In fact, we have more than 1.3 billion people. 900 million cell phones. If we want to identify a criminal, it is the equivalent of searching for a needle in a billion haystacks. Everybody's heard of searching for a needle in a haystack. But the Indian problem is among the world's biggest problems. It is called searching for a needle in a billion haystacks. I was speaking at a conference in the US, and I explained it to them in this manner. I said, look, India is extremely advanced when it comes to CDR analysis for a very simple reason. We do not have extensive DNA databases ready. We don't have ballistic databases ready. We don't have fingerprints of every criminal. We have only one good technical source of data, and that is telecom call logs. So it is not a matter of being good at what we do. We are damn good at what we do. And CDAMS is the result of that. So basically, we have the ability to find needles in a billion haystacks when we do in-depth analysis and we do a lot of big data crunching. This is where the action is. Today, the big data crunching has become extremely big data crunching because of the simple reason that the internet data, the GPRS data that is out there, that is being generated extensively because of data usage on phones, is very, very, very high. Maybe a few more minutes. So this is a small video to give you a general idea of what CDR is about. I'll just share it with you. Let me know if you can hear the sound.
Introducing CDAMS, the Call Data Analysis and Management System. Let's see how we can catch criminals using telephone call analysis. Whenever you make or receive a call or text, your cell phone connects to the nearest tower. This gives away your location, identifies your associates and IDs behavior patterns. These locations, associations and behavior are used to identify suspects. No matter where you go, cell phones keep track of your location. The duration and frequency of calls and text messages reveals the nature of your relationships. Specific calling patterns help identify suspect behavior. Every call or text message generates a log entry at the mobile service provider. An analysis of these logs is required to apprehend suspects. That's not an easy task. The solution for intelligent call analytics, CDAMS. Find and catch your suspects, quickly and surely. For more information, please visit cdr-analysis.com.
So essentially, this is one of the major tools that law enforcement uses for their investigations. The reason that only law enforcement can use it is because the data that it requires is extremely confidential and can only be provided against a permit or special permission. So you can, get individual calls, billing data, IMEI scans, tower dumps, gateways, subscriber data, and all, and analyze that. Put it through. You can, put the data on maps. You can put the data in link analysis, relationship analysis. You can, analyze the tables in tabular format, do a lot of number crunching and get people's what we call LAB, LAB, locations, associations, and behavior of suspects. So we are basically identifying the presence of a person at the crime scene, places he or she usually visits, places common with other criminals, what are the routes a person takes, usual routes, and then who are the friends that he might hide with, who are the friends he associates with, family is usually in touch with, who is his girlfriend, who is his wife. For example, when we are looking at call patterns, we are seeing that, okay, when he's talking to his wife, his call duration is extremely short. When he's talking to his girlfriend, the call duration is very long. So, that's a pattern analysis. So we joke, we can tell, who's his girlfriend, who's his wife. Similarly, we do an analysis to identify who are the gang members, who are, people this person is close to. What type of a criminal is he? Is he a local criminal or a national criminal or an international criminal? We're doing his behavior analysis. We're doing his call analysis. Where does he sleep at night? What is the type of phone or device he carries? Is he carrying an expensive phone or a cheap phone? Is he carrying an iPhone 13 or not yet? Or does he keep changing his SIMs, for example? Does he communicate with calls and text messages, or instead of sending or making calls? What is his specialty? Is he a WhatsApp user all the time? So all these kind of things. So these are some of the challenges that are out there. Volumes are huge. There are multiple service providers. People tend to throw away their phones. Providers have multiple formats with large volume subscriber data, inter-circle roaming, cell number portability. There are a lot of research areas also available in this. I wrote a research paper. It is there on the IIT Kanpur website where they have their papers. And this research paper was actually using serial analysis for analyzing contact or doing contact tracing during the COVID outbreak. So during the COVID outbreak, a lot of the police forces were using this for the purposes of identifying, who was infecting whom, how many people the person came in touch with, and who are the friends, relations, who are their close, and things like that. So this is an example of a research that can be done in this area, and a lot of other things. You can find out about behavior patterns and things like that using this. So that is one very interesting area that is there. With just some examples of how the tool can be used. You can do a geofencing to identify, what is happening. A lot of research areas are out there. If anybody wants to, work in this area, or if you need any help or any assistance or anything that I can help with, please feel free to reach out to me. Social network and analytics is something that you can do with this. Identify the people who are the boss, who is the connector, who is the communicator, who are people at the periphery, things like that. Useful pieces of information. Next is write blockers. So what is a write blocker? Now you remember, that we had discussed that case where this person who was, doing the DTP business, his data was examined and it was identified that, he was doing this fake identity card manufacturing. But the evidence was not admissible because the date and time had changed. This prevents that from happening. A write blocker is a hardware device which, when connected to physical media, prevents the writing to that media when you are actually viewing it, when you're previewing it. Take an example. If you take a brand new, fresh pen drive and you insert it into your USB port of a laptop, what happens? Within a few seconds, you will find that Windows has created a separate folder inside. There are a number of files that have appeared on that and all that. So that is no longer, the hash value will never be the same. It has already been contaminated. And then accidentally also things can happen. So a write protect is a device which, when placed between the media and your computer, ensures that there is no write happening to that device. So there are many of them out there. The leader is a company called Logicube. Otherwise, you have individual write blockers available. You can have, Tableau, SATA ID write blockers, SAS write blockers, Firewire write blockers, USB write blockers, or you can take an all-in-one where all of these are pre-built and can be used for the analysis. So a quick summary of what a write blocker is. It's a hardware or software tool that permits read-only access to data without compromising the integrity of the data. So hash value will never change, when it comes to using a write blocker. And it can guarantee the protection of the data and maintains the chain of custody. So basically the rules under which the write blockers work are that the tool shall not allow a protected drive to be changed ever. The tool shall not prevent obtaining any information from or about any drive. Then the tool shall not prevent any operations to a drive that is not protected. So these are crucial things. So the next is a disk duplicator. So once again, because evidence is extremely fragile, digital evidence is extremely fragile, it is extremely easy to damage. There are specialized devices available which make it very easy. This is the kind of thing that students, when they have access to or have experience on, their employment becomes very easy. You want to go and work for Deloitte, PwC, and Ernst & Young, and these kind of things. When they say that they have had exposure to computer forensics and they have got exposure to these tools, they are constantly looking for people because there's a huge shortage of people in that area. And it's not very difficult. All you have to do is know how to use these tools. And of course, as your knowledge increases, you go higher up the ladder. You become an analyst and things like that. You learn a lot. But the basic fundamentals are built into the tools to prevent any damage to the hardware. So this allows, or to the data rather, evidence. This allows imaging or creating forensic clones with the same hash value of the original to prevent any damage to the original. There's a small video, have a look.
When LogicCube introduced the Forensic Falcon in 2013, digital forensics investigators were astounded by its blazing fast imaging speed and bundled functionality. It set a new standard in digital forensic imaging technology. To stay ahead of advances in drive speeds, interface formats, and network technologies, LogicCube has introduced the next generation Falcon Neo. The Falcon Neo is the height of forensic drive imaging technology. Unmatched performance, a streamlined evidence data collection process, and state-of-the-art network connectivity combine to meet the challenges faced in complex digital forensic investigations. The Neo can achieve speeds of over 50 gigabytes a minute. That's 50% faster than the competition. PCIe to PCIe cloning speeds are over 90 gigabytes a minute. The Falcon Neo allows the simultaneous imaging of 4 source drives to 8 destination drives. The solution images and verifies concurrently instead of sequentially, significantly reducing the overall processing time. A write-blocked drive preview and triage feature, along with the ability to image, hash, and wipe simultaneously, allows investigators to streamline and shorten the evidence collection process. The Falcon Neo's logical imaging feature provides a strategic advantage and optimizes workflow, allowing the investigator to acquire only the specific files needed. The Neo features 2 10-gigabit Ethernet ports for maximum efficiency in imaging to or from network repositories and network-attached storage solutions. The solution also offers a network traffic capture feature to capture voice-over IP, internet activity, and network traffic. To make the investigator's job easier, the Neo can image directly from laptops and Apple Macs using an iSCSI boot client or in target disk mode, eliminating the time-consuming task of removing hard drives. The Falcon Neo supports imaging from Surface Pro 4 and above laptops and Macs with USB-C ports, including MacBook Pro. The Neo's write-blocked source ports include 2 SAS SATA, 1 USB 3.0, and 1 4-lane PCIe. Destination ports include 2 SAS SATA, 2 SATA, 3 USB 3.0, and 1 4-lane PCIe. SCSI is supported with an optional module. IDE and PCIe require optional adapters. Future-focused, the Falcon Neo features 2 source and 1 destination I/O card ports to support new interface technologies as they arrive on the market. The first I/O card to be released will support Thunderbolt. The Falcon Neo offers investigators the most efficient tool set to collect digital evidence.
So, this is an example of, and this is the world's fastest duplicator. It works at speeds greater than 90 gigabyte per minute for PCIe, PCIe imaging or cloning. That's an amazing thing. These are individual standard, standalone write dockers that we're looking at. The T35U is SATA ID. Then this is another duplicator. So we can go on to the next one. There are these are examples of that. Let me proceed further. Then there are forensic workstations. Basically, forensic workstations are specialized, hardware computers that are used for the purposes of digital forensics. This is more common among law enforcement. Basically, universities, colleges, and corporate environment normally uses normal kind of computers with the external write dockers, like I showed you earlier, the LogicCube all-in-one write docker. So they just plug it in and then use it. These are dedicated machines for using computer forensics on a very extensive basis all the time. So this is these are very powerful. They have rates. They're also made in ISO 9000 facilities. They're energy compliant because they have hard drive 10, they may have 40-50 terabyte hard drives inside, and that will generate a lot of heat and things like that. So then we come to mobile forensics. Now, what happens when we're talking about mobile forensics? Basically, this is data extraction from different types of mobile and digital devices. You can extract data from Android, iOS, Windows, Kaizen, a lot of other mobile OSs also. What happens is that you can use this for extracting from chip off, from JTAG, from this. It's best to show you a video. You'll have a quick look. You'll get a good idea. Just to give you an idea, you can get all sorts of information. You can get contacts, cloud logs, call history, rejected calls list, messages, chats, emails, schedules, your GPS locations, the movement that you did, the file that you downloaded, the Bluetooth connections that you had. All sorts of information is available and extremely useful from an investigation perspective. So this gives you a good overview of all the data that exists on a mobile. Pretty useful and can be used extensively for investigations. You can also use, this is actually a Korean tool. It's very good for the Indian environment because it supports even the Indian make mobiles. you can also recover data from JTAG and chip off kind of situations where you can get the data of their phones where they are not directly accessible. There may be water damage, they may have been physically destroyed, they could have been burnt in an explosion or whatever, So a lot of information is gatherable from there. So this is the gold standard. This is a disk forensic tool. It is called NCASE. NCASE is the world leader when it comes to disk forensics. In fact, people who know NCASE are sort of immediately employable. There is a huge supply and demand gap in the world today. I mentioned all the big fours, they hire people, with this knowledge of NCASE. They are also, demand for certified guys. In fact, what I keep saying is that in the future, like earlier, there were people, India was a software exporter. It would export software engineers. I see that in the future, we're going to, export digital forensic investigators, because there is such a demand supply gap, and India, we've got the young, demographic, and we also have the technical demographic. So what we see is that with technology, with youth, and today there is a lot of interest in the information security side. There's a lot of interest in the digital investigations side. So with that kind of a combination, I foresee that we are going to find a lot of Indian experts who are going to go abroad based on this. So this is a trend that's coming. I'm beginning to see it. So a lot of my students have actually done that already. So yes, so this is a process, you triage, you collect, you decrypt, you process, you investigate, and then you report. And all of that is managed by one tool, the NCASE tool. It is hugely powerful. A, it is cheaper than all the other tools. B, it is, it works on multiple platforms, Windows, Linux, AIX, OS X, Solaris, and all of them. So if you want to access the maximum number of operating systems, there is no other tool. There is just one. And suppose some suspect, I give you that example of that file where it was renamed to Windows.dll. Now, how will you identify whether it is actually a text file or it is actually a Windows DLL file? From a Windows perspective, Windows will say this is a Windows file. Now, when Windows says this is a Windows file, for a forensic investigator, we have two options. Either we accept what Windows says or we dig deeper. Now, we are a forensic investigator, so we will dig deeper. So this is the tool we will use to dig deeper and identify where is this file, which is this file actually. And this will help detect these hidden, cloaked, or deleted files. It will manage very large volumes of evidence. It will find file slack and unallocated space. It will transfer evidence files directly, and it will allow you to review things for non-technical people also. Very good. Excellent reporting as well. Very easy reporting. Quick overview.
We know you have a tough job. Mountains of data, people waiting on your investigation findings, and a never-ending backlog of new cases. At Guidance Software, the makers of NCASE and pioneers of digital forensic investigations, we build our software with a deep understanding of the digital investigation workflow and the importance of maintaining evidence integrity. It defines our every process. No matter what you're handed, you need a powerful forensic tool that you can count on, giving you the power to find the unknown. NCASE Forensic is used globally by thousands of investigators every day to perform successful investigations. Unlike other tools that may rely solely on what is visible to the operating system, NCASE Forensic goes deep, finds more evidence, and allows you to triage digital evidence quickly in the field or the lab to determine priority, collect and decrypt evidence from a wide variety of devices, process collected evidence in a consistent, automated fashion, perform deep dive forensic investigation to identify relevant evidence, even deleted items, create intuitive case reports for field agents, investigators, and others. There's no other solution that offers the flexibility, functionality, and track record of court acceptance as Encase Forensic. Discover how Encase Forensic can help you overcome your workload and complete your digital investigations. Guidance software from beginning to endpoint. Get a demo and quote today.
So you can actually use it, network preview, disk view, Enscript, pathways, a lot of great features are there. 91 of the top world 100 companies, you know, the Fortune 100 companies, 91 of them are all using Encase. So this is what it looks like. Then there is the Belkasoft Evidence Center, another all-in-one digital forensic tool. It is used for mobile forensics, computer forensics, memory forensics, cloud forensics. A lot of useful features, good for internet artifacts, easy to use, not very technical, just like not very technical vis-a-vis the Encase, but quite useful also. Simple workflow, acquire, examine, review and analyze and report. Then there is a social discovery tool which allows you to actually find the data that is on the internet, have a quick look at what is going on, identify these posts, say Twitter posts or whatever on a particular topic, see what is trending, figure out the activities that are going on, that are going to happen and things like that. It helps you access Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Tumblr, web pages, Gmail, Yahoo, whatnot, all sorts of things. Quick video, let me see.
Unique in the industry, X1 Social Discovery collects social media metadata in a legally defensible manner and preserves the chain of custody. Built on X1's patented search technology, X1 Social Discovery refines collected data faster than any other solution, saving customers vast amounts of both money and time through the automated collection of data from multiple social media accounts such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Tumblr, and web data and IMAP webmail. X1 Social Discovery is software that can be installed on a user's laptop or in a cloud workspace, and the information collected on the user's machine. Built with investigators and legal practitioners' workflows in mind, X1 Social Discovery users have the ability to create and manage in the product. Users have the ability to collect publicly facing data, and content is automatically indexed and searched through the patented X1 Fast as You Type search. X1 Social Discovery saves investigators critical man-hours with powerful, proactive, and reactive investigative capabilities.
So, this allows us to access social media, find the contents, see the relevance. Certain in corporations, what happens that some information of a corporation is leaked on the social media. Now, this information that has been leaked on social media can be very crucial for a corporation. It can even cut down, shut down a complete company based on the information that is leaked. And these kind of things have to be handled quickly and efficiently and smoothly. And that's the job of computer forensics. Then there are things like the GPS forensic tool like Burla Blackthorn. If you recall, the 26/11 attacks in Mumbai, the terrorists were actually carrying GPS devices because they did not know this area. They had come for the first time. So from that perspective, they were carrying GPS devices, and they had to fill in that data on the GPS device. Rather, they had to review the data on the GPS device to identify where they had to go. So the GPS devices had to be analyzed, and the data was recovered to identify where they came from, what is the route they followed, etc., etc. Similarly, GPS devices are also within vehicles, within cars, within ships, within aeroplanes. They are handheld, all sorts of things. So Burla Blackthorn is the leader when it comes to GPS forensic tools. This is like another good area for research. New GPS tools are coming up, and if any university or college wants to get into this is a great area. And then there is something for video forensics. This is an extremely useful tool. What happens is that normally data that is overwritten cannot be recovered, but when it comes to video, because data is stored in frames, data can be deleted data and overwritten data can also be recovered. So this will pick up the frames, reconstruct them, and provide the output as a video, and it is extremely useful. I'm short of time, otherwise I would have given you a lot more interesting inputs on the cases that have been solved using this kind of technology. This is something for forensic image and video enhancement. Pretty useful tool. Let me give you some examples here. Take a look. So number plates that are at an angle, heights that can be measured, dark images, shaking images can be cleared, clarified, like person behind a window can be seen. And all this is possible by technology today. So digital forensics allows you to access this kind of technology and produce these kind of results, which are extremely helpful to anybody doing investigations. So these are some examples. Ola car, Ola taxi, which was involved in an incident. So this was the original video grab, but based on the forensic image enhancement, we were able to get the number. So that's motion deblurring. Authenticating images, you identify which is the original, where the tampering has been, cut and paste, duplication of the same image, cloned object. This is the area of tampering, etc. And then there is face matching, where you can match suspects' faces. So the Jang Bahadur and he's sort of run away, but his faces are available on various data this thing. So we match it and it produces a result, and we can then utilize this or identify him as this suspect. So you can even do partial face matching. You can also look at just eyes. Sometimes dead bodies come for identification. They're probably half burnt or half broken, or only some portion is visible. Or even when it comes to videos, or there's somebody standing in front of the person and only half the face is visible, you can take partial face also for recognition purposes. Similarly, tattoos can be used, and people can identify, can be identified on the basis of tattoos. And similarly, you can also do it on the basis of their what is called their background. So if you remember, we were talking about CSAM material, child sexual abuse material. In that kind of thing, what happens is that say the video has been shot in a particular room or thing like that. Those backgrounds can be analyzed, and the same backgrounds can be looked for other pictures online, which may or may not be related to child sexual abuse, and then we can identify, look, this is the same room. And using that, we can identify the person. So these are all useful pieces of technology that can give you a great insight into this. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. Essentially, what has happened is that I am very much in time. I have 2 minutes left, which is not too bad. If you want a copy of my presentation, please feel free. This is the link: https://bit.ly/ppt-request. I can type it also so that you can click on the link. And other than that, please feel free to contact me. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Participants can ask any question regarding the presentation.
How do you track a real-time call? Okay, so the question, how do you track a real-time call, is basically with the help of a service provider. A service provider will be contacted by a police force, and the police force will say, all right, where is this originating from? They will say, all right, here, and then the police force will end up there. What are the job roles in digital forensics? Basically, digital forensics starts with the first responder job role, where you use things like DESK or MD Live, and you are going on the location of incident, what I would call the crime scene, but which is the incident location. From there, you carry out maybe an imaging process, seizure, and things like that. Then there are, the roles of junior, senior forensic analysts and people who do the analysis and arrive at results. And then there are a lot of, very big experts out there also. People have opportunities in the government. Government is currently, setting up I4Cs throughout the country, and they're hiring people on contracts. Some are being also offered full-time jobs. Private sector is also hiring, but there's a very big demand internationally for this, for people with exposure and experience in this area. This is a fairly common thing. We have come across servers where, if you log in with the wrong password, it does a self-destruct in terms of data and destroys all the data that exists on the server. Good. So I hope you found it useful. If there's anything I can help you with, please feel free. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for this informative, interactive one. Participants, they were posting all their queries. So in case if if anyone is having any further doubts, so our team will be getting in touch with you. Thank you so much, sir, for this session.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.